Aceh Dintorni wants to devote this episode to LPA Sights, a company in the firing line which has recently moved to brand new prestigious headquarters in Sarezzo. This is where front sights, rear sights and accessories for pistols, semi-automatic firearms, revolvers and rifles are produced and sold. The company is now famous all over the world, and here we are going to meet the owner, Christian Ghilardi. For now, congratulations on your beautiful headquarters, which are rather well suited to the name of LPA Sights.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm very happy that you've come here to hold this interview. And yes, as you've said, LPA is now a world-famous company. Back in 1974, my father and my uncle had this idea of meeting the demands of millions of gun enthusiasts and hunters worldwide with high-quality sight systems and of improving performance levels in sport, hunting and clay pigeon shooting.
Now, Christian, you set yourselves a goal, an important goal, of supplying the whole armourers sector with special sight systems. Many years on, has this goal been achieved?
Yes, I would say so. Our sight systems are equipped with optical fibre, which is a synthetic material able to capture whatever ambient light there is and focus it onto the sight, so as to increase contrast and improve target acquisition. A couple of years ago, we also introduced a new substance which is Luminova, a Swiss substance. The particular feature of this substance is that it can recharge without any source of light, just like a battery, and then release this luminosity in a state of total darkness. Okay, as if it were tritium. But differently from tritium, which is a radioactive substance and emits a light of its own, this one is completely eco-friendly and harmless to human health.
Basically, it absorbs the light and then stores it.
It absorbs the light and then stores it, and even manages to do so for up to 10 to 12 hours consecutively.
Well, over the years there have been developments at a technological level in equipment and research. In short, LPA is always one step ahead of the game.
Yes, you got that right. We've currently got 40 vertical machining centers at our disposal. They're all FANUC, with very precise Japanese machines. 4 programmers work shifts and manage to satisfy the demands of all our customers around the world, which range from mere armories to producers of firearms, such as Beretta, Benelli, Italian, Sig Sauer, German,
Browning,
Belgian, FN Herstal, and so on.
Basically, you've got important partners famous the world over, and you also distribute in all countries around the world.
We have distributors, 2 distributors for every country. France and Germany are the 2 nations which, as usual, and in other markets too, are the strongest countries as far as demand is concerned. We have one American importer who then sells through various distributors across the US, and we incentivize them and train them to treat our customers who want the LPA brand with great care.
So you have this particular production system, front sights and rear sights, which don't just end up on rifles for hunting and clay pigeon shooting, but are also for defense weapons.
Yes, for example, Luminova, the substance that I spoke about before, originated specifically for home defense. Therefore, it is mounted and used on a very compact rear sight, specifically for transportation, in such a way as to allow for rapid removal without entanglement in shirts or clothing. And then we also supply sight systems to the Italian Carabinieri police force, who will be using LPA systems on the new submachine gun, which is due to be supplied to our Carabinieri police force in the forthcoming months or years.
We can say that LPA is now a world-famous brand.
Yes, we can say that LPA is now a world-famous brand, definitely.
Well then, at this point, Christian, I'll ask you to start introducing us to the world of LPA, to show us how your front sights, rear sights, and everything else has to do with LPA sights are created.
Yes, I'd say let's start from production, where the steel is forged, and then we'll go upstairs to the assembly and packing departments.
So we can see the production cycle.
The production cycle.
Thanks. Let's go. So, Christian, this is the heart of the company, and this is where LPA's production cycle begins.
Yes, as you've said, this is the heart of the company, and when we process the steel and transform it into front sights and rear sights.
This is where you have all your high-tech machines.
Exactly. Here you can see some of them. Now we'll have a look around together, so I can also show you how the other 40 is structured.
Christian, what are you going to show us now?
Now I'm going to take you to see in more detail how these machines process the steel and, in particular, show you an item that we will later see being assembled on the upper floor.
So we start from the steel.
Yes, we start from the steel.
Is it special steel?
This steel is enriched with carbon, so it is very tough steel. And, in particular, this item is created from a small block like this, and later we'll also see how it is assembled. So from this piece of steel, the machine
creates the material.
Exactly. Is there a lot of scrap? No. If you want, the amount of scrap is very small. To be exact, the volume is calculated very precisely so as not to have scrap material.
And what is this small block for?
This small block is a sight base, which will be mounted onto the gun slide for shooting sports. We also have other machines. This one is another type of item. It is made by a machine which is fully automated. In other words, it works throughout the night unassisted. However, there is a particular system that automates the machine, but as it's a secret, I prefer not to show it to you.
It is programmed.
It is programmed, and at 9 o'clock in the evening, the employees lock up the company and go home, and 20 of these machines work unassisted throughout the night.
And they find the finished piece ready in the morning.
They find the finished piece ready in the morning.
What is this item?
Now here we can see a Browning carbide aluminium rifle ramp sight which, unlike the item we saw before, isn't made of steel, but of aluminium.
It's very light.
To be precise, it's a very light ergal alloy used in aviation.
And you can get it from this.
It's made out of this small block, which we now order ready cut. Here too, you can see how scrap is reduced to a minimum in order to avoid waste, as ergal is a very expensive material. As you can see inside the machine, it's a complex item that needs to be positioned in 3 to 4 consecutive phases before the finished product can be obtained.
Talking of high technology, during our tour of the company here, we've stopped in front of this very particular machine, which Christian has told us is a lathe that makes screws. It's a lathe that is really the cutting edge of technology.
Yes, it's the latest technology there is on the market. It's a sliding head lathe. We have 3 of this type of machine because we create the special screws that we need for our sight systems. Here you can see one of them. It's virtually a fine pitch screw, which enables you to get a very delicate, precise adjustment, and its particular incisions close together on the head mean that once this screw has been adjusted, it doesn't move during shooting and gives the classic sense of a click mechanism when it is being adjusted.
So obviously these screws are not available on the market. Even the spare parts have to be ordered from you at LPA Sights.
Exactly so. These are screws that we manufacture exclusively for ourselves, and in case there's a need for any spare parts, they have to be ordered from us as a company or from our distributors, who are always ready to satisfy our customers.
And they're all produced here.
They are all manufactured in this turning department.
During our visit to LPA Sights, a must is a visit to quality control. It's an extremely particular and very delicate sector where every piece is checked.
Exactly. After the production of a certain number of parts, the 40 machining centers we saw earlier are systematically mirrored by a 3D machine equipped with a probe, which is that little dot you can see. And it measures all the parts' critical and non-critical dimensional tolerances.
It's basically a gauge.
It's an automatic robot gauge. The measured dimensional tolerances can then be seen in a printout on the screen on a monitor, where the operator in charge of checking them is able to understand whether the part basically needs to be corrected or not, before ending up with scrap.
Here we have arrived in the assembly department, where the workers are mostly women.
Yes, it's company choice to have women in the assembly department because of their manual skills and
Attention span.
particularly for their attention span.
What are you going to show us now?
Now, I want to show you something particular that we saw in the turning department, which here is in its assembly phase. The woman is holding a sight lever. She's putting springs into place. She joins it together with the sight space that we saw in the milling department. She inserts a pin by means of a small cross-key tool. Using that tool, she places the pin flush so that there are no rough edges that might cut, and then puts in the sight blade, which is the part that the shooter will actually then use to acquire the target.
Every workstation is super equipped.
Yes, every workstation is provided with its tools to carry out the necessary assembly phase. Now, those screws that we saw in the turning department, special screws with unique incisions. Yes, unique. Here we are, now the sight blade, the spring, the blade, and another special screw to obtain the side adjustment mechanism. After the assembly phase, every single detail is checked by the girl before packaging. Checked with a micrometric probe to ensure that the part complies with the required level of quality.
And only after it has been checked does it go to the packing department.
Once it has been checked, it goes to packing, where the item is then put into bubble wrap packaging to be sent.
Christian has brought us to the end of the tour of the company, to where everything from LPA Sights production is on display. Where shall we start, Christian?
First of all, I wanted to show you a new item which is going to be launched by the end of this year. It's a fiber optic sight for hunting, extra long. In fact, we can see it mounted on this model of a semi-automatic. The sight in question is this one.
Particularly long.
Especially long for hunting, as the length of the optical fiber is important. Because the longer it is, the more light it manages to capture, light which can then be transmitted to the target point. We can see that the classic front sight that we produce is definitely inferior in length, and consequently so is the luminosity. The problem of a long optical fiber is its fragility, which we have, however, managed to solve, unlike our competitors, by using a steel protection spring. This spring protects the long optical fiber without limiting its luminosity.
And this is one of the many new products that LPA is manufacturing at the moment.
Exactly.
From hunting rifles, we move on to home defense.
Exactly. In that sector, I want to show you this type of sight sets, where we have a very resistant, light aluminium rear sight, which has some side protection features to protect the sight in case of any possible falls or collisions. And in the same way, the front sight has steel protection on the side so as to make sure that targeting is always reliable.
The sight is always in optical fiber.
The sight is in optical fiber for better target acquisition in conditions of low luminosity, like at a home. It's highly sought after and sold especially in the United States of America. At the start of our meeting, I told you about an innovative substance, still regarding home defense, which is used on pistols to illuminate the rear sights in the dark. We spoke about superluminova. This here is a set of sights equipped with a front sight and a rear sight with the substance I told you about. In daylight, it looks yellow, whereas in the night, when it starts glowing and shining with its own light after having been recharged, the color of the light is green.
And this light recharges and then in darkness.
Exactly. I can show you a simulation. For example, it recharges with a mere mobile phone torch. Barely a few moments are enough to obtain a very, very efficient yield.
It becomes a question of safety too.
Yes, because always having a precise sight line ensures that a possible shot hits the target and doesn't end up having an impact on objects or people that don't want to defend themselves.
Of course, Christian. Every firearm then has its rear sights, which can be suitable for various types.
Yes, now I've just shown you one item for families. Let's put it like that. But every firearm, a Tanfoglio, a Beretta, a Sig Sauer, has some specific mountings, and also the height relationship between rear sights and front sights changes from firearm to firearm. Thus, we carry out targeted research on every type of firearm so as to then propose the appropriate set with the right mountings and the correct height relationship.
This means following customers' specific indications and requests from design to production.
Yes, exactly. When a customer initiates an inquiry about a specific sight set for a firearm, we start on studies for that weapon and then go on to manufacture it from design through to production, passing through the various departments that I showed you right up to the finished product, specific for that firearm.
Well, at this point, we have really reached the end of our company visit to LPA Sights, which is precisely where they sell and produce front sights and rear sights for every type, for every sort of firearm, both for hunting and defense. All I have to do now is thank Christian Ghilardi, who has hosted us and given us the opportunity to indeed see the creation of these really special objects that we see mounted on our rifles when we go hunting. Thank you, Christian.
Thanks to you.
Goodbye to all of those who have followed us. Of course, caccia I dintorni, always in pursuit of passion.